Hi, and welcome to Feature Fridays. My name is Guy Bartram. I'm the Director of Product Marketing in our Cloud Provider Business Unit. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Amit and Bhaskar. So Bhaskar, welcome back. And Amit, you've been on as well, but let's have a quick introduction from you both. Bhaskar, why don't you go first?
Hi everyone. My name is Bhaskar Gupta. I'm working as a technical product manager at VMware and happy to be a part of this session.
Thanks, Bhaskar. And Amit?
Yes, I am Amit Vijayanand. I am a part of the PMM team in the Cloud Infrastructure Business Group.
Excellent.
I'm working closely with Bhaskar on this.
Yep, and this being Cloud Provider Lifecycle Manager, CP LCM. And today we're going to cover the 1.2 release and dive into some of the kind of new aspects of 1.2 because there's quite a lot here in terms of a new appliance deployment, a new CLI as along with the REST API, and upgraded support for all of the latest product stack. So Amit, let's turn it over to you first. Let's see, I believe you had a few slides that you wanted to talk to regarding the new release.
LifeCycle Manager. So LifeCycle Manager is basically a comprehensive solution for cloud providers, which basically, in essence, eases their operations. It takes care from the day zero operations to, say, from deployment, configuration, and up to day two operations, even including patching and upgradation. So this in essence relieves the cloud provider of all the operational hassles and all the operational efforts that he has to in validating and securing these proper configurations to upgrade with respect to what his basic codes are. So this while this tool basically automates the life cycle of products. Currently, we have VMware Cloud Director, VROps, Tenant App, and Usage Meter, which is now supported by LCM. And these upgradations happen with validated design practices. So there is no need for the provider to worry about what's going wrong, what's missed. He can just click a button and be rest assured that things are going safe and smooth. So now we have 1.2 that's up. So we just released 1.2 last week of October, and 1.2 basically has come leaps and bounds from where we started. So initially we started off LCM as a Docker image, and now we keep that. We made it an appliance-based deployment, so that everything is predefined. It's just straightforward deployment there. So this basically has simplified the operations furthermore in the deployment of the product itself. And the REST API again, that remains the same. So the REST API basically it converses with all the products in a similar way, so that there is seamless communication and seamless experience between products when they use it, be it Usage Meter, vCloud Director, or Tenant App. And we've also introduced CLI with in addition to the REST API, which was there in 1.1.
So does the CLI therefore, perhaps like more operational stuff rather than programmatic, staff with programming skills to be able to use this for more operational tasks like updating, patching, that type of thing that ops would do with CLI or PowerShell or something like that, rather than necessarily being full-on REST API work?
That's right. So CLI also gives another degree of flexibility, and we also have the appliance management UI. So that's something which basically gives a good intuition or intuitive UI for the user.
Okay, just remind me, Lifecycle Manager is great for a greenfield site. what about an existing site? So if a provider wanted to take this on today and take advantage of the fact that 1.2 now supports VCD 10.3, usage meter 4.4, and all of the latest kind of things, could they use this in a brownfield site, i.e. a site with those existing production instances of Cloud Director and usage meter and tenant app?
Yes, yes, they can. And Bhaskar, I guess you can elaborate on this.
Sure. I can take that question. So, Guy, that's a really good question. So we get this asked a lot. Yes. In 1.1 also we were able to support, but there's an option like you can import an environment. In API, there was an option to import an environment, an existing environment. For instance, if there's a brownfield environment, using that API call, that information or the details of that environment can be imported to CP LCM, and we can manage that. And the same feature is there for 1.2 as well, with the addition of, apart from REST API, we can use CLI. But again, we don't really say that it will 100% work because we don't know the complexities of the existing environment. We say that technically it should work, but over time on the next releases, we should have more clear picture. But yes, technically it should work, but we don't 100% give a guarantee on it.
And Bhaskar, if we look at that that existing brownfield site, it may have components that are outside of the validated design interoperability guide.
Yes.
And I guess it's one of the big things, because we only support with VCP LCM what's been tested with VCP LCM.
Exactly. That's right. And beyond that, that's the reason I said the complexities. That's what, if we are importing, it will be imported, but when we are trying to manage it, or let's say day-to-day activities, it might fail if it's not in that scope of the products.
Okay, sorry, Amit, just wanted to get that one understood. You've got any other slides to show?
Yes. So not much, but then 1.2. Another point is that we have the supportability has been enhanced. So now VCP LCM it provides support to all the latest product versions, say 10.3 and 10.3.1 and usage meter and the tenant app. So so the supportability there and the ease of use of the product itself has been greatly improved.
Okay, great. So you got accelerated deployment, day-to-day operations, certain amount of brownfield coverage, but not necessarily 100% guaranteed. You'd need to obviously do your due diligence on that piece first. We've got a modernized cloud provider stack support with all the latest SKUs for Cloud Director, tenant app, usage meter, and I believe we're also using RabbitMQ in there for the automation. Yeah. And you mentioned did you mention the UI? Sorry, I think you said a UI was management UI.
Yes. So it's a virtual appliance management UI.
Cool. All right. Well, should we dive into it and have a quick look around?
All right.
I hope you can see my screen here.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, sure. So thank you, Amit, for covering all the major components, like what's new on a high level. So I'm just gonna talk a bit more, a deep dive on what he has spoken about, like 3 points basically, and a bit of a quick recap of 1.0 and 1.1 for the people who are not aware of the previous version, and then we'll go directly to the demo and show how to deploy VMware Cloud Director at 10.2.2 and upgrade it to 10.3 using API. That's new functionality here. Talking about the architecture remains the same for all the versions. If you see on the left-hand side, we have got the provider orchestration using, it manages the deployment and SDDC, and in the middle, we have got the lifecycle manager repository, local and NFS. Like this repository, if you have seen my earlier videos, I have talked about it, like this is very much mandatory for all the versions. And that's where, we copy all the product binaries. We see the usage meter, everything, and so on. And then if you want to manage or deploy, you can use that binaries or the VF files from this repository. This can be either NFS or it can be local as well. I'll show that in a bit in the demo as well. And using that lifecycle manager on the right-hand side, the target environment, we can deploy the products. As you can see, VMware Cloud Director, vRealize Operations Manager, tenant tab, usage meter, and RabbitMQ. So that's pretty much a high-level overview of how the architecture looks like. And just a quick, recap of what Amit have been talking about, like the appliance-based deployment. Like if we talk about 1.0, it was released in October 2020 to one of the partners, wherein only deployment feature was available, and 1.1 in May 2021, wherein deployment, upgrade, and data operations was also available, like certificate, node management, and so on. But the catch was it was a Docker based, and one had to deploy, Photon based OS and a VM, and import the Docker image which was available from VMware download page, and then deploy the VCP LCM 1.1. To make it more simple in terms of deployment, we have come up with the appliance, and then which makes the deployment a lot easier. And wherein if you talk about the feature, they all remain the same, product deployment, importing an environment, which we just talked earlier. If you want to import an environment and manage it, we can just do that. Retrieve an information about the deployed environment, like if you want to retrieve it, whatever you have deployed using VCP LCM, and want to know that what all components are deployed and the details, the IPs, and so on, and the port groups and everything, we can just retrieve it. Upgrade deployed products. We don't support RabbitMQ upgrade of that RabbitMQ because it's not a VMware product actually. So deployment is still supported. And certificate and node management as well, it stays the same as earlier versions. And VCP LCM, as I said, the second option is the CLI in opposed to REST API, wherein earlier it was like the deployment, upgrade, and configuration was done through REST API in the previous version. But with this version using CLI, we can do that. Having said that, we can still use the REST API. This is just an added feature has been introduced. Apart from REST API, we can also use CLI for all those.
Just remind me, right? So we haven't got things in here like obviously vSphere or NSX. The assumption is that those things are already there in a cloud foundation, perhaps, or something like that.
Exactly, that's right. So, for example, if you want to deploy VMware Cloud VCD or any other products, we have to make sure we follow the product deployment guidelines. Like, for instance, for VCD, we have to have the NFS share configured, vSphere, NSX, and this has to be configured as a prerequisites. Yeah. And
so, would a good sorry to interrupt you, would a good sort of use case for this be then if a provider is delivering single tenant, large single tenant environments that warrant the need for Cloud Director, that they could then put this either into like a hyperconverged infrastructure that comes with VCF, or they could put this on top of a hyperconverged infrastructure with multiple VCF instances.
Yes, that can be.
Okay,
that's right. That's a good use case as well. Yeah, and apart from CLI and also like earlier versions, like using REST API, we can still configure those like a day-to activities sort of task. Like once you deploy the VMware Cloud Director, you can it will enable you to create the provider VDCs, external networks, and so on, and also integrate it with RabbitMQ. That's again up to the customer's choice whether they want to do it or they want to do it by themselves or let the tool do it for them. And lastly, it supports VMware Cloud Director 10.3 and vRealize Operations Manager 10.2.6.1 as the latest product versions. in addition to the earlier versions which were supported with 1.1. These are the key areas which have been focused with these versions with 1.2. Now, I want to talk quickly about the deployment. So deployment is pretty simple. Now with appliance, all you need to do is just download the OVA, and you can use OVF tool for the deployment as well. And we have a very nice document which states about the step-by-step procedure. We can follow that and download the product binaries, as I said earlier in the architecture while I was discussing. You have to get it from the marketplace or VMware and get that copied in a specific folder structure, without which the tool won't understand and it might fail. So you have to follow that binary structure. And now, if I want to talk about the version upgrade and reinstallation, upgrade from VCP LCM 1.1 to 1.2 is not available directly. The reason is, earlier it was Docker image, as I said, 1.1. So the Docker image was upgraded by replacing the container, and now the appliance replaces the Docker image. Now, if you want to talk about the subsequent upgrades, it's still available via in-place upgrade. However, VCP LCM, does not keep any state of the information. It's a stateless tool. So thus, replacing the appliance could also be an option. And as I discussed earlier, the features,
Sorry, it's not actually a big deal though, right? Because you're just looking at configuration files. That's pretty much all it is.
Exactly. All you need to do is just deploy the appliance, configure, the product binaries, the NFS structure. I'll show you. I mean, it's pretty much simple now, and you're not losing anything as such, if you're redeploying it.
Okay.
And the features remains the same as I discussed earlier. This is one of the features I want to discuss, and since we'll be talking about this a lot in the demo, which I'm going to show next. So CLI environment designer. So the VCP LCM CLI provides all functionality of the REST API directly to the command line. And this makes it easy to integrate the lifecycle management task to script the pipelines. To get started, the CLI features an environment designer that helps define the initial environment payload for deploying the product. And that's where it comes in picture. So this designer is started with the following command. If you see here, VCP LCM environment design. And that's where once you type in, hit enter, it then shows available options that are chosen by specifying the defined character. As you can see, I, J, load from the JSON. So I'll be talking about this a bit more in the demo as well. So I think that's enough of slides. Let me quickly talk about the demo. Okay, so what you see here is VCF 4.2, and this is where I have configured NFS share, and then on top of it, I am trying to deploy VMware Cloud Director. So I'll be using that vSAN NFS share as a prerequisite to deploy VMware Cloud Director. Now, this is where you can see I'm deploying the VCP LCM, the appliance version 1.2 here.
Voila, the fastest deployment in history.
I have fast forwarded this just for the sake of time, and so if you see here, this is pretty much simple. I'm providing the username, the passwords, and the REST API, and the port number, the NTP host. That's pretty simple. I mean, common here. And this is what I want to talk. If you see on the top, customized template, I've mentioned the repository. So what you can do, you can have an NFS share configured and give that repository. And in that, you can create the folder structure and copy the binaries. In that way, you don't have to really create that repository inside the CP LCM host and thus consume the space, as in when you copy the binaries, you can use the NFS share for that. This is where you can put all the details. However, if you still don't put any details here as a repository, what you got to do is once you deploy it, you have to manually create those folder structures and copy the binaries over. So this is just an automation step to help you with the configuration. And yes, again, I have forwarded this, and the IP details, the network and the port group information. And finally, I'm just, starting with the deployment. Now, once this is deployed, so what it's going to do, it will we just need to log in to this appliance, and it will just reboot by itself and using SSH. I'll show that in a while. So it's been deployed. Just reboots. We got a login now. Yeah. So what you see is the VCP LCM host here, and I have just logged in by SSH, and I'm going to list what all folder structures are there. So if you see, I've already logged into the CP LCM report directory, and these are the folders created and the respective binaries for VCD. If you see inside, we have got the different versions and the binaries as well. Now, using this command, as I talked about earlier, the environment design, I'll start the deployment. And here, once I type I, it will ask me what you want to deploy, like what's the environment ID. This is the unique ID. And it will ask you what product you want. I give the version name and the number, like 10.2.2 for VCD, the admin password, email address, the domain. This is all you have to provide, the node count. So I'm giving the node count as 2, and the node details here, like what's the host name for the first node, IP address, ET80, like how you deploy VCD. All you have to do is just provide all this information here, the subnet, the port group details for ET80 first interface, and comes to the second one. We are providing all the networking details here.
And you can use the config file, can't you, to control this if you wanted to?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So here I see, if you see this node gateway and the DNS. So this environment designer didn't ask me for the node 2 details. The reason being, it takes the subsequent IP. For example, the host name is VCD-4-cell01. So it will take cell 02 as a next host name, and the IP as 13.91 or 24.92. I'm sorry. So you don't need to provide that. If at all, for instances and environments wherein the second IPs are different, the next node 2 IPs are different, all you can do is there's an option to edit this design. I'll show that in a while. So you can just type in E, and over there you can just manually enter the IPs, save it, and execute the deployment.
Okay.
This is for the ease of deployment. We have made it more simpler. The DNS NTP details. NFS mount, this is for the VMware Cloud Director, which I showed earlier. We have created the license details here. Load balancer, this has to be pre-configured as a part of prerequisites. Target vCenter, this is where the VMware Cloud Director has to be deployed. We have to provide this vCenter details, the user, and the data center. So there in the documentation, you can find what all ports are needed to communicate with the LCM host and the vCenter to make it go. The source pool, cluster, and all the information, the data store. And finally, if you see, once this is done, you can type in V to validate the design. So here it gave an error because my session just timed out. So there's you have to log into the session, and what you're gonna do is once the session is timed out, you have to just there's an option, log into VCP LCML, and you can just re-log into that session.
Okay. So it's like caching it?
Yeah. So usually it's like 30 minutes, and if at all you just logged out, you just type in the username and password, and the same username password which you provided during the deployment of the appliance. Now, if you see here, what I've highlighted is something like you have created the design by providing all the details. Now, if you want to save that design to a JSON file, like the same JSON file in the previous version, what we have been using, we have got a Postman, collection which we have been using. So similarly, you can save this design to a JSON file, like I provided the path, and you can utilize the JSON for data purpose if you want to redeploy or want to check what all details are there. So it just saved it over there. So these are all the options you have got. Now, once you have verified, you can just start the deployment. So here I have just, once I've saved, and you can just type in D to start the deployment. If you see here, I've typed in D and the deployment has started. Now, once the deployment have been started, like the previous version, you can also type another command to see what's the progress here. So you will get a task ID, and then you can get all the task details. If you see here, I've been running that command here, T, get the status of the tasks. I've been typing T and all the information like the deployment is in progress, which you see, and you can also troubleshoot based on the subtask value if it fails. So cell
That's
one,
right. So, sorry, mate. If this is running on script and you're deploying tasks, it's very likely to time out while you're doing that. Are you going to be able to log in, or is that, can you set it to run in the background as well?
We will be able to still log in to that and resume the task.
Okay. But the task won't pause whilst you're.
No, it will just initiate it and happen at the background.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, cool.
And if you see VCD cell 1 and now cell 2 is getting deployed, again, I have forwarded this part, rather than waiting on the deployment, and it's powered on as well. If you see, there are a lot of subtasks, like certificate configuration of certificate is in progress. And for instance, I'll show you like the post deploy validation. Like once it's deployed, it will just check configuration of product and deploy validation. All this task has to carry out. And the overall status, it's still in progress. And at the end, it will import the environment so that LCM knows that this is what I have to manage. It's importing it once it's deployed.
So it's really good for making that like initial golden, like if you've got a greenfield and you've got multiple VCF hyperconverged instances like VX Rails or something, to put this in on top and have this being your kind of gold build baseline is going to save you a lot of time and effort going forward, because the VCF instances can be upgraded with the VCF lifecycle manager. No problem. But now you've got a lifecycle manager which you can deploy and manage and patch up on top. Which is fantastic, right? I mean, this is what everyone wants.
Exactly, absolutely, that's right. So yeah, and if you see the overall status, it shows success. And now let me just log into the load balance URL, and we should be able to see the version which has been, so that. So we have got two cells, 10.2.2. You can see the same version here as well. Now, what I'm going to show is upgradation of VMware Cloud Director from 10.2.2 to 10.3. So this is one of the text files which we have got, like upgrade.txt, or you can use a JSON file as well. So in the earlier like API, we have got that the 4-liner code. We can just copy that. We're just providing the version here, what version you want to upgrade to. There in that text file, all I've mentioned is the version 10.3.0. And it's just gonna take it over there. If you see here, target version, I've just mentioned 10.3.0. And now I'm gonna execute this command to start the deployment. Now there's an option, rollback, disable rollback is true. If you wanna enable the rollback, if it fails, you can just do that as well. So for any failure, it will roll it back to the earlier known good state or the version. Now, while the deployment, what happens is, as a part of backup, I mentioned earlier in the version as well, 1.1, it's the same here. The mechanism wherein it will take a snapshot of the VCD cells. It will also take a snapshot of, it will take a backup of the database, and post successful upgrade, it will delete those snapshot on the backup as well as a part of backup. And now once I've executed that command, if you see task ID 14 has been returned. So all I have to do is query that task ID to get the status update.
Pascal, what mechanism are you using to actually do the database backup? Is it the inbuilt VCD mechanism?
Yes, it's an inbuilt VCD mechanism. We are not using any other. mechanism,
Yep.
like apart
And when
from
you
that on the database side.
Okay, and that's the same for the snapshot as well, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Just a normal snapshot, like when from the vCenter, like what we do.
Okay, got it.
So overall status is in progress. If you see here, and now I'm just gonna query the task, and there are various commands you can use just to know what's the status, whether it's in progress or it failed, or you can get more granular details, what I'm just doing right now, wherein all the subtasks will show up. Now using this command.
Mhm.
Now let me show you real quick that while I'm doing this, this upgrade preparation is in progress and so on. So if you see here, once the upgrade preparation is in progress, and we should be able to see this snapshot has been created for all the VMs as a part of backup for any failure. Now post this, all the tasks will go on, and if you see the overall status now is in it succeeded, we should be able to log into the same URL here and see the version which has been upgraded. So the version is 10.3.0, and both the cells have been upgraded successfully.
Awesome.
So that's all about the 1.2 VCP LCM and what's new and the features about it. If you have any queries, feel free to reach out to us or our Slack channel, and we'll be happy to help you.
Yeah, it's great to see. And like I said, I think this is going to be very useful. I know there's and Pascal, there's a few providers out there using this now. What are the kind of use cases that you're seeing with them?
Yeah, the first use case is like VCD on VCF, and also what we are looking at is if providers, as you rightly said, they wanted to automate the deployment, not only VMware VCD but other products, VDOF TA, usage meter. But again, certificate management, node management, and upgrade is a very common use case which we get it. And just to add another thing, that in the upcoming versions we are trying to add more features and also graphical user interface to make it more
Easier
configurable.
to use.
Yeah, easier to use as well.
Yeah, that was my next question. So what's coming up? What's your sort of time frame for releases on this?
I can't give a hardcore time frame, but again, it's first quarter of next year.
Okay, cool.
That's what we are, but we are really looking forward for the user interface.
Yeah, so I wasn't asking for an actual day. I was just, what are you doing, a 6-monthly release cycle, a 12-month release cycle, sort of 6-month?
Yes, 6 months. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I could see there'd be a whole bunch of service providers who would benefit from this kind of standardization. And I think one of the big things as well is it can improve your service quality by having a known state of your environment. When you've got lots of different environments, it's important to have them rolled out, and that's why we do infrastructure as code. It's because it's like really important to have it rolled out in the same manner and same state, so this the kind of how it's going to run and behave is much more predictable.
True.
And I can see this would be very useful for that.
Yes.
Pascal, thank you very much for the demo and putting it together. Really appreciate your time today. And Amit, thank you for walking through the high-level overview of the product. Great to see you guys on, and look forward to a 1.3 or 2.0, however you're going to call it, next release.
1.3 is what we're going to call, hopefully, yes.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.